Hey everybody, this is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook video about American culture, which sucks. According to Vivek Ramaswamy, uh, and we're going to talk about skill issues, getting schooled, and was DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, was that a lie the entire time? Was that a white lie? And obviously, what I mean a white lie meaning a untruth that is said to spare someone's feelings. That's what I mean by that. So we're gonna talk about diversity. We're gonna talk about DEI. We're gonna talk about American culture. We're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about all of these fun, interesting topics which have been brought to our attention thanks to our new overlords, Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk of the Department of Governmental Efficiency, Doge. So thanks for that. Thank you. I think that this is really this is really the efficiency maximization. This is the optimization that the America needs, right? This is getting in shape, right? This is the tightening the belt that America needs. This is really what we're gonna. I'm full disclosure. I am not and have never been on the Republican GOP payroll. I'm not saying. I am not a. I am not a Vivek Ramaswamy stan. I don't actually know that much about this particular person. Um, I know that he is obviously close with Elon. I know he's someone of Indian descent, from family ancestors from India, who also is a Republican. I know that. And I know a few other things, but I'm not like, so. This is not a I love Elon and I love Vivek Ramaswamy. Uh, this is not a paid. This is not a paid promotion for the Republican Party or for either of these individuals. So I just want to put that out there first, in case somebody thinks that's what's happening. I just I find the discussion that I find the I find the seminar, in the the internet digital global school that is Twitter, the seminar that is being had in this class. A lot of people, you know, didn't do their homework. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people haven't done their homework, and they're just showing up to they're showing up to the discussion, and they don't have the facts. They didn't do their part in the group project. They don't have their pie charts. They don't have their data, right? They just kind of, you know, Vivek just kind of dropped this, for whatever reason that he felt like, and a lot of people, a lot of Americans, are not making the grade. They just haven't been making the grade. When it comes to the discussion, I'm somewhat joking. I'm not saying that the problem is all Americans are not smart enough or something, right? I'm being somewhat facetious, but before I go too far, let's get straight into what was said. Let's go to the original sources and stop having fun, entertaining, being simply entertaining. at the expense of a dying empire. The reason the Vivek Ramaswamy is a quote unquote small government crusader. Just for a little bit of context, and if you don't know who this person is for some reason, you probably do. He is Elon, who is the richest person in the planet Earth, according to like the Forbes official list. Now, I think his net worth is in excess of $400 billion. A somewhat distant second at the moment is Jeff Bezos. He is at 200 something billion. So that's an important fact. Also, obviously, Elon Musk also was a big backer of the incoming U.S. President Donald Trump, right? So, and Vivek is also a Republican of Indian descent. That's also interesting facts before I start this. Okay, so the reason top tech companies, this is Vivek's words, the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans, obviously he means non-foreign-born Americans, not indigenous people to North America, Turtle Island. So the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s and likely longer. That doesn't start in college, it starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World or Zach and Slater over Screech in Saved by the Bell. These are obviously the not studious characters in these shows. Or Stefan over Steve Urkel in Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. Fact, I know multiple sets of immigrant parents in the 90s who actively limited how much their kids could watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity, and their students went on to become wildly successful STEM graduates. More movies like Whiplash, fewer reruns of Friends. More math tutoring, fewer sleepovers. More weekend science competitions, fewer Saturday morning cartoons. More books, less TV. More creating, less chillin'. More extracurriculars, less hanging out at the mall. Most normal American parents look skeptically at those kinds of parents. More normal American kids view those kinds of kids with scorn. If you grow up aspiring to normalcy, normalcy is what you will achieve. Now, close your eyes and visualize which families you knew in the 90s or even now who raised their kids according to one model versus the other. Be brutally honest. Normalcy doesn't cut it in a hyper-competitive global market for technical talent. And if we pretend like it does, we will have our butts handed to us by China. We will be beat by China. This can be our Sputnik moment. Vivek should have went back to school a little bit longer, but it's okay. We've awoken from slumber before, and we can do it again. Trump's election hopefully marks the beginning of a new golden era in America, but only if our culture fully wakes up. A culture that once again prioritizes achievement over normalcy, excellence over mediocrity, nerdiness over conformity, hard work over laziness. That's the work we have cut out for us rather than wallowing in victimhood and just wishing or legislating alternative hiring practices into existence. I'm confident we can do it. American flag, American flag. Anyways, I saw I saw some Gen X non-white professional people very much like liking this post. I mean, a lot of them don't like this person. As I said, I'm not a particular fan of this particular guy for a whole lot of reasons. Full disclosure, I'm also Native Hawaiian, so it's technically U.S. is a colonial occupation, so this is somewhat of a foreign look at this, I suppose. Speaking of foreign-born people, but I think, but it set off so much. It set off a lot. It set off a lot, obviously. Elon, as I understand it, had a meltdown. So Elon Musk, like, just because there were questions. Right? This is also revolving around Donald Trump was talking about a H1. Because obviously the MAGA, right? Make America Great Again, Donald Trump, supporters, Donald Trump's MAGA movement, a lot of that was about cracking down. A lot of that is ideologically revolving around controlling immigration, right? That's one of the big issues or one of the big talking points that they come back to, right? And how immigrants are hurting our ability to immigrants are hurting our non-foreign born Americans' ability to get jobs. And the thing is, so this is interesting, right? Because Elon is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, backer of Trump, right? Trump actually had to come out and say Elon will not be president, because some people were saying Elon will be the shadow real president behind Donald Trump, right? And so Trump actually had to come out, and the fact that he had to say anything about that, like Elon is not president, he can't be president, he wasn't born in America, suggests that there is obviously close ties between Trump and Elon, or Elon and Trump, and Elon is definitely, they're closely connected in various ways, and also Elon has said, he came out and said, I will go to war, right? This is actually a post where Elon said he will go to war to protect H1B visas. H1B visas basically allow Indian from India, Chinese, or other foreign-born immigrants to work in America, right? So this is and this is his actual post, right? And he said, Elon said, America rose to greatness over the past 150 years because it was a meritocracy more than anywhere else on earth. Okay, so I mean, what I'm not saying that that's what I believe, but I'm just reading what he's posted here. So Elon said, America rose to greatness over the past 150 years. He pinned it. So he really believes in this because it was a meritocracy more than anywhere else on earth. I will fight to my last drop of blood to ensure it remains Atlanta, freedom and opportunity. And he said, and Elon also said he would go to war to make sure that immigrants can come to the United States with an H1B visa and keep working there. So that's just another piece of context to this. One of the things that has happened, Elon has actually deleted the accounts, because he owns Twitter, right? He deleted the accounts of limited or deleted accounts of just countless people left and right on X, Twitter. For many of them were some supporters. I think Laura Loomer is one that got into a fight up with this. About this, a lot of MAGA supporters, because they're saying, no, Elon, you have to stop these immigrants from coming into our great America. And Elon said no. So that is that is just I want to take a picture of that, put it on the wall in this native wine anti-imperial, anti-colonial cooperative office. That's great. That's beautiful. But back to what Vivek said. That was a little bit of a sidetrack there. There is so much to unpack there, And I was talking to Holly. Obviously, like I said, I'm not a fan of this guy. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I'm not a fan of Elon Musk, right? I'm not a fan of racism, obviously. Being a racialized brown non-white person that does not benefit from that particularly, but and also, as people have pointed out, Vivek Ramaswamy himself is not he is a business guy. He's a CEO. This right. He there's things that he is saying that is actually, there is some truth to elements of things that he's saying. That's why many people are getting pissed off at him, because he's hitting a nerve. Like, he's revealing, he is bringing a lot of receipts for the last 40 years at least of America, and going like, here's your report card, and people are upset about that. I mean, because a lot of this is true, right? But at the same time, he himself is, he's a tech billionaire. He's a business bro. Like, he is not a hard worker, hard studier himself, right? Well, the things he is saying is actually, in the sense that, like, in what the kind of people he's talking about, they do exist, like hardworking, some probably too hard, overly unnecessarily hardworking, but definitely hardworking, like Indian, Chinese, Asian, and other immigrants. There are many immigrants. I know this because I work with them. Like, I live in an immigrant, mostly immigrant, or heavily immigrant filled area. That's where I'm from, in Hawaii, in Oahu. There were lots of Chinese immigrants. There were Filipino. There were Laotian, Southeast Asian of all kinds. Like, I work with immigrant families. As a social worker for the underprivileged and at risk and impoverished youth, right? And like, there are many. It is just a fact that there are many extremely hardworking and extremely skilled and extremely educated, and they do prioritize study and they prioritize hard work with their children, and that is true. And a lot of times it's like, it's toxically, it's a toxic level of expectations and demands of immigrant children, right? And that's where it gets, that's a whole there's so many layers to this, but I don't disbelieve that Vivek was surrounded by children of Indian immigrants whose parents put pressure on them. I mean, I know Holly has in-laws that are exactly that. They're Gen X now, and in the 80s and 90s and noughties, they were pressured to become doctors, to become lawyers, to get tech or engineering educations, right? And I mean, they didn't always follow through on that, but like, there was a lot of pressure there. So that is just truth, the truth. But Vivek himself is a billionaire. So I mean, this guy, and he's a billionaire. The money that he has is made, and he also did all kind of horrible pump and dump, Ponzi, fraud, Wall Street corruption. So definitely don't like this guy at all. But he is pointing out something, and because he has a big platform, because he is in the United States federal government, right? Or he is above the U.S. federal government as part of Doge. It's him and Elon, right? He's close to so that's a whole. There's so many cans of worms in this. It's like a giant worm circus in the rotting heart of the big rotten apple. You know what I'm saying? It's so beautiful and disgusting at the same time. Hey, what is up, McLovin? Also. But and so I don't even know quite where to start with this, but yeah, the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over quote-unquote Native Americans is because of an innate American IQ deficit. Lazy and wrong explanation. The key part of it comes down to the C-word culture. Another unsaid aspect of this, what he just said there, is that it's not just the culture; it's the fact that I think, let me see if I can find that. As somebody pointed out, if you have an immigrant, right, who doesn't have papers or who could be deported, right, then you have a pressure point. I was listening to like there's a shout out to, there was a video called
Global South.
This was called Reviewing Geopolitics. Can we put everything back on track in 2025?
What's up, guys? Guess
but
where
in this video, just a sidebar.
I'm in Dar es Salaam, in Tanzania.
Influencer and journalist and reporter that also follows me. So one day I would like to be involved in this. But anyways, somebody in that brought up that
this is the Tazara Railway, also known as the Tanzania-Zambia Railway, and this.
So sorry, if you couldn't hear what I was saying because the audio was playing. So African countries have, and global South countries in general, right, are pushed into food insovereignty or food insecurity and energy and underdevelopment in order to have pressure points on them, right? Like in African countries, South American countries, so that the United States and the collective imperial countries, the European countries, wealthy first world countries, they can all, so that they can all come to, if a country comes to a negotiation, like let's say an African country comes to a WTO, IMF, or a international negotiation, a COP 27 or COP 28 climate negotiation. And if or any kind of negotiation, an economic negotiation, and if the African country says we want X or Y or Z, right? If the global North country says no, we don't want to let you develop yourself. We don't want to allow you to use your own resources to provide for your people. Then the African country can be denied. The African country can say, well, we walk away from that deal because that deal is not good, right? But then the imperial country, United States, European Union, or all of the imperial countries like operate through the United States ultimately. But in a international negotiation, the African country has no leverage, right? Because they don't grow their own food, they can't feed themselves, right? If they say no to whatever the U.S., the G7, right, historical, white colonizer entities that have been and continue to exploit the global South, if the exploited country says no, then the global North countries will say, well, you're going to starve then because we cut your food off, right? So the U.S. and Europe have subsidized their own food production and make sure they have their food production locked down. Hawaii also is another country that produced enough food to feed itself, and California, and now Hawaii imports 90% of its food, similar to Africa. I'm a native Hawaiian, like I said. So by taking away the means of existence, by ripping away your sovereignty, by ripping away your ability to feed yourself and your population, like you can't survive without that, right? It's part of and the U.S. sanctions is part of that process, right? Is a weaponized economics, which is weaponized lack of food, energy, etc. Right? Those are the two key ones, right? Also, healthcare and medical supplies, like what they did to Syria, where people were dying by thousands from lack of medicine and cancer treatment, and also lack of food and lack of energy. So, if the global North, if you say no, you don't have the power to say. You don't have the power to say no, right? You can't, right? So it's like you have flag sovereignty, you have flag independence, right? You fought this decolonization. Now you have, you went through this decolonization process in the mid 20th century, and you have your own flag. You're not a British colony, French colony technically, but you still have shadow colonization, neo-colonization, because you have to do whatever the master says, whatever the global North says, or they will starve you because you don't have access to your own food. So anyway, that's like a side point. I know that's not exactly, but that does directly relate to the actual reason, right? Or one of the actual reasons why Elon Musk wants these H1B visas, right? Why does Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy, both billionaires, right? Both American billionaires, right? Why do they actually want to keep the H1B visas going, right? It's not because they particularly care about working class, white, brown, Indian, or of European ancestry. They don't care about any of that. They care about money, right? That's what they care about: money, power, control, and using bad dog memes to try to be funny. I guess that's what they care about. Making rusted, low polygon boondoggles like Cybertrucks. That's what they care about. But they definitely care about money and power. And so the H1B visa it relates. So you're like, what the hell? What the heck does African? What the heck does the state of African underdevelopment and lack of food sovereignty have to do with this conversation? And also India's lack of they have certain amounts of sovereignty, but they don't have full sovereignty, and they have corrupt puppets at the top, like many African countries. All you need is Ibrahim Traore. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I was talking about the global slave plantation last week, right? Said I think he just said he's the leader of one of the African countries that is actually building military, economic, and food sovereignty. They're growing record amounts of food this year in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, so that they cannot be subordinated. They cannot be covertly colonized by U.S., Europe, etc. So France, right? And so, but in the same way that like those countries, they need the ability to sustain themselves. They need leverage, right? They need their own security, right? As entire colonized countries, African countries, Asian countries, Latin American countries, right? But as individuals, right? As individuals in the United States or in a colonizer country like that, in an imperial country, in the imperial core territory, you are also disempowered by the fact that you are an immigrant on an H1B visa or otherwise, or you could be an undocumented immigrant, but the United States always holds above your head, and by extension, the billionaires, right? They have leverage over you, the same way that France, Britain, United States has leverage if they supply the food to Nigeria, right? The Elon, your employer, has leverage over the immigrant because Elon can always weaponize and say, well, I can get you deported, right? If you have Vivek Ramaswamy, right? Corporate overlord Vivek Ramaswamy. He's Indian himself, but he is also exploiting his own Indian immigrant diaspora, right? Because Vivek will say, if he wants to, if you don't accept lower pay, if you don't accept your precarious financial situation, right? If you don't work harder like I want you to, as an exploiter, not a hard worker. Vivek's not a hard worker, he's an exploiter. But if you don't do what I say, you, Indian immigrant, I can get you deported. Now, the United States is not going to deport Vivek Ramaswamy right now anyway, but they're not going to deport him because he is doing what is in the interest of, the imperial capitalist structure, right? By being part of the exploiter CEO capitalist class, right? So that's where it gets complicated, right? So what I'm saying is that what Vivek is saying is many of these things that he has said is not entirely false. In fact, much of it is true. And I think a lot of people haven't heard this at the level of platform that he has, right? And Elon has basically said, I agree with Vivek, right? Now, I've spent probably 50 hours on this channel dunking on that specific person and his emerald diapered baby Captain Star Spangled Underpants friend, billionaire philanthropist, arms dealer, playboy, imperialist number one, not Iron Man, Elon Musk, wannabe Iron Man. So I'm not saying that Elon and Vivek are good. I'm saying, but what the discussion that the points and the discussion that they're bringing to the forefront is I don't think in the long run it's actually in their interest. It's not actually in Vivek's interest to bring this to the forefront. I think I don't know why he's saying this, to be honest. But well, no, actually, well, it in the short term, it is in his interest, because Vivek needs his underpaid, overworked, highly educated Indian and Chinese immigrants to work at his corporations to make Vivek money. So in the short term, it's in his interest. In the long term, though, right? In the long term, if the United States does well in the longer term, like this does start to disrupt. If the United States actually starts to make the changes that we're talking about, it could actually make it harder for billionaires to exploit the masses. Because this is the other thing, because Vivek brings up in this discussion, he brings up China, right? He says, like, if we pretend that normalcy will cut it in hyper-competitive global markets for technical talent, right? If we don't get smart enough, if we don't study as hard as we possibly can and get the smartest, most talented, most skilled STEM, science, tech, engineering, and math graduates, if we don't have a hyper-educated population, we'll have our butts handed to us by China, right? Now, the thing is, that is just true. That is true. China is beating the United States. I mean, you can look these facts up. I mean, it's just a reality. I mean, I point this out frequently on this channel, so I don't think I need to belabor that. But China, in purchasing power parity terms, has surpassed the United States. I mean, China just launched a sixth generation. It's like literally Buzz Lightyear's beyond. It is like light years. It is Buzz Lightyear's beyond in space what America's military fighter jets are capable of. Literally, they say that this new Chinese jet. Let me see, get a picture of that. It's an unknown jet, but there's already fan art of it. The new futuristic jet fighter actually is it is apparently possibly capable of space flight. So this is a fighter jet that can go into space and come back out of space. It is like magnitudes beyond anything America. I mean, as far as I know, there's a lot of talk about it. But one of the things that came out of this is that the Pentagon, right, the United States and the collective imperial military forces, they are freaking out. It's actually, I think, that's part of what triggered this whole American culture problem, is that a lot of discussion started happening 2 days, because it's like right within about the same time period, like shortly after this came out, there were discussions. Why is the United States and its allied militaries falling behind? Why is China blasting past us? Like, why are they have it's not just in the planes, it's in artificial intelligence, it's in their AI is like surpassing the United States. Their supercomputers are, calculating in like in a millisecond what would take 1 trillion years plus for American or European computers to compute. Renewable technology, green tech. China makes 2/3. The last statistics I heard was China produces 2/3 of all the wind and solar inside of its own country. It just announced it's going to have it's going to have a hydro power project, which is a renewable project that is going to produce enough electricity to power as many households as the entire United States. With one renewable Chinese power project is going to produce 300 million households, 300 million populations worth of electricity from one hydro project. Okay, so China is blasting past the United States. Everybody knows this. This is America talk. It's just, this is what's happening. It's the copium. The copium is the vaporizing tears as the burning red cheeks of Uncle Sam are covered in in jealousy tears, right? That is the copium gases, the U.S. snorting its own farts. Is really, it's just America is so sad and so mad. It's just rage tears. You know, it's the Wojak, red faced, right? Waterfall, ugly crying, Yankee Eagle, and also all the colonial predecessors all together, right? The eagle and the lion, the British lion, and the French poodle. You know, they're all over there crying their eyes out because France is also losing all its colonies in the Sahel at the same time. And so, working also with China and Russia, that's helping them with their military problems. And the thing is, as these jets are going to be in the hands of Yemen, they're going to be in the hands of Russia, Iran. These jets, if America wants to go to war with anyone, this is going to, if the U.S. and the West, they want to go to war, which they always have to bring the stick out, you know, as they walk in their white shoes, their billionaire shoes, softly, and just like walk into hotels in New York and try not to get unalived by UHC shooters. They walk very softly and they try to wear them a bulletproof vest, but they carry the big imperial stick and also the stick of sanctions and denying healthcare to Syrians and to Americans. But how are you going to, but really, they're going to need the military at the end. They always need the military at the end, because when the countries resist, you know, when they say, we are not going to allow you to steal our resources, we're not going to allow you to exploit us anymore, right? They need to bring the military out. If the United States loses its military edge further and further and further, its industrial edge, its economic edge, its stealth fighter edge, it cannot even try to maintain that colonial system. And I think this is what triggered this, right? I think there's discussion, and I think, you know, this is speculation, but I think there was the DLD, Project for New American Century, all the billionaires, the Davos highball sipping douchebag club, they all got together who worked through America, the global. I mean, this includes a lot of the corrupt Arab countries leaders and corrupt African leaders and corrupt Central South American leaders that work out of America. And Jair Bolsonaro, he was having his KFC, right? Like having diarrhea, going, oh crap, America's getting dumb. And they had a talk, and they said, like, how are we going to control the world anymore if we don't have jets that can compete with this? And I think somebody said, we why don't we have it? Well, we don't have the STEM talent. We don't have science, tech, engineering, math talent, right? And then somebody's probably said, I thought Obama got all those black and brown and poor folks and global South H1B visas to believe in American imperialism, but with rainbow flags and diverse. And then someone else said, I mean, we don't have enough though. We don't have enough. Like China has more STEM graduates than like all. I think they have like over 3 or 4 times as many STEM graduates. There's one of the statistics. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Over 3 or 4 times the STEM graduates, the very smart nerds that you need to invent and make breakthroughs than the United States. Let me see if I can find that one. I swear I bookmarked it recently. I have some. Yeah, here it is, right here. China has more STEM graduates than the rest of the world combined. Rest of the world combined. So India is next. This is why is it Vivek Ramaswamy? Why is Vivek Ramaswamy even in the government of the Republican, which is historically it's the white man's party, it's the grand old party, right? It's similar to Rishi Sunak. He's also an Indian billionaire who got very high in British government. But why is that? Well, I mean, it's because there's a lot of, in the global imperial capitalist circuits, there's a lot of talk about we need to deal with this, you know, China problem, because China is, they have a communist party. Socialism with Chinese characteristics is the number one problem. It's why it's the number one enemy of the United States. All the European countries, anyone who is on the side of imperial capitalist colonial system, they are worried about, and they're trying to always fight and deal with China in economic, in military, in, you know, whether it's the, you know, directly he's talking about war with China, which is what the U.S., Trump, all parties of the United States, right? And so, but it's what they want to do is they want to reverse China's progress, right? and STEM graduates. I mean, right? The skills and the knowledge and the educations and the capacities of the populations of these countries, right? That is one of the top factors in this. And China has more STEM graduates than the rest of the world combined. India is next. And so India is being, what the point I was making is India is being pushed up because, right? I think that's why they made Captain Marvel was Indian. I mean, I'm not, that's not a 1-to-1, but I mean, like, the Hollywood is soft power of the empire, right? So they need to push and prioritize those people and say, America loves you and cares about you because, you know, the United States needs more Indians to come onto its side, right? Don't join BRICS. Don't work with China. Don't join BRICS. Join the imperial nexus's side. Join the imperial capitalist's side. Like, you know, look at what Vivek is, right? Indians, especially smart ones, with, you know, who studied hard and were nerds in India, because India, they do have a lot of highly educated people. Like, they have a lot of STEM graduates. It's true. I mean, per capita, because like, India is, you know, it's 4 times the U.S. population, right? But they have over 4 times the STEM graduates, right? Now, another thing you can see is, so India has a higher percentage of STEM of highly educated STEM graduates. China has even way more than that, right? That's one thing you will notice here. Part of the problem is India has an extreme unequal capitalistic system. They have their own internal problems, right? They have extreme poverty. Half the country is food insecure, unlike China, which is alleviated absolute poverty. That's part of why they still lag in so many ways, right? But, you know, the United States they make movies like Captain Marvel, and they put Rishi Sunak and Vivek Ramaswamy on top because they want to they put them as poster children of the diverse, you know, it is a diverse, quote unquote, woke empire they're trying to build. Not in a good sense. They're just trying to, you know, it's you know, they want to bring as many Indians as possible to deal with the shortcomings, right? Because the U.S., it doesn't have anywhere near the amount of science, tech, engineering, math, and skilled talent in the United States that it would need to even try to compete with China in military invention, in artificial intelligence, in computer tech, renewable, like I said, biotech, you know, inventing new cures to diseases. I mean, all these important factors. I mean, not in the long run, U.S., you know, it shouldn't want to, right? But the United States is trying to secure imperial capitalist, colonialist, supremacist, unjust hegemony for the world on behalf of all of the world's traders, billionaires, CEOs, and corrupt officials that work through the United States, right? So it's important to remember that it's like the United States is not really just about, the U.S. government is not just operating for Americans, right? It doesn't care about Americans. The U.S. government operates for the planet's rich, the planet's millionaires and billionaires, right? So Vivek and the billionaires in India come to the United States to make sure that the United States continues to have imperial hegemony so that they can keep their money, keep their power, right? That's another part of what is happening, right? And so, another interesting fact is that Russia and Iran. Also, what's up, Grant? Russia and Iran have a high. They're like the next. They're like 4th and 5th in the STEM graduates. So like Russia has it's right next to the United States. Also important, Russia has about 1/3 the U.S. population. As far as, let me double check that. It's like 100 million people, right? Well, it's 140. So it's a little bit, but it's less than half the U.S. population, right? Russia is, you know, it's like U.S. has over 2 times Russian population, yet Russia has almost the same amount of STEM graduates, which says what? Russia has a culture, right? Coming back to this original point, Russia has a it does have. I mean, it's Russian culture. It's not one culture. It's not a monolith, obviously. But like Russia by and large, still has a highly scholarly, education focused culture, right? They encourage and applaud and look up to, right? That's really what this is about. When we're talking about Vivek's comments about American culture being why you can't have nice things, he's talking about the anti-intellectualism, the being pro-jock, anti-nerd American culture, where studying is not cool. Studying is not going to get you a girlfriend. Studying is not going to give you friends. If you study hard and you get educated and you get good at math and science, you're going to be a loser. That is the message communicated by so many movies. I mean, Urkel versus Urkel's cool dude counterpart. Urkel is a nerd. It's just fundamentally, that's just the truth. I mean, and Vivek is not the only person who has said this. I mean, I was in there's a book called Made in Asia. This is my commercial. This is not my book, but I did take part in this. But part of Made in Asia America, which is about why video games were never really about us, there is an essay in this written by a I think it's a black or black mixed, possibly South Asian professor who said, and he pointed out that like there were no, like, he pointed out Urkel. Why was Urkel uncool? And Stefan, right? Why was the nerd uncool, but the slick, not studying hard, but just good at smooth talking girls, right? Or just good at dressing good. I mean, that's not a bad thing to want to do, but it was like there you couldn't really, there was no identity for like a black nerd in that. This is part of what the essay is about. But it also points to like the fact that it wasn't just the black nerds. It wasn't cool to be a white nerd either. It wasn't cool to be any nerd, right? Until like very recently, maybe, right? The fact that the science, tech, engineering, math, right, in the 2010s, all the Transformers and like all these nerdy inventors, right, that are working on drones and stuff. You think about the movies in the last 10 years, a lot of the programmers, even like Wakanda's Shuri, right? That's like, a positive character. Shuri is inventing tech and she's a black woman, right? It's also about getting Africa is 1 billion people who can come and work for less and be deported if they don't invent tech for U.S. billionaires to use to control the world, right? I mean, right? That's the university is just a plantation of black and brown and Asian women and non-straight guys doing all the hard work so that a handful of straight tenured guys can have all the benefit and accolades and profit, right? But only recently in the last 10 years has there been that push to try to change that culture, because America, it was even the Pentagon knew that was going to be a problem. We needed more STEM graduates because AI, automated, swarming warfare, high-tech warfare, cyber warfare is part of the new domains, right, of war. I mean, just what's happening in the Russian-Ukraine war. That's what's happening in the Red Sea. Yemen is out. Even the poorest country in the world, in the Arab world, Yemen is out high-tech warring America. America's 3 aircraft carriers have been kicked out of the Red Sea by the poorest Arab country. And in part is because they have, it's not just like, but Yemen is just such a, there's a lot of highly educated people. Like Yahya Saree is an engineering guy. I mean, it's also staunchly against the atrocities the U.S. and the West is supporting, is into real and committing. But in order to have hypersonic missiles, well, Iran made it for them, or Russia made it for them. They still need highly educated technicians. Number one, like, we don't know exactly who's making what, but they have their own indigenously made weapons and also solar and other industrial products in secret areas in Yemen. They have developed rapidly, right? And they have technical expertise. Iran definitely also has technical expertise. Anyways, let me come back to the point. Before I get too far off of it. China, which has 1.4 billion people, right? 1.4 billion people, 4.7 million, 4.7 million recent STEM graduates, right? It's about 4 times the U.S. population, right? So China has per capita, China has over double the STEM graduates of the United States, right? Russia has over twice the per capita STEM graduates. Okay, India actually has just slightly more per capita than the United States STEM graduates. I'm based on the rough math I'm doing in my head right now, but it's because India is also 4 times the U.S. population, right? So if you cut that by 4, it's about 600,000 approximately STEM graduates recently. But India is a country is a huge country. So even if India has a similar amount of STEM graduates to the United States, I mean, India is also starving. So the fact that they can even graduate anyone in India is a feat. And that's not an attack, and that is not sniping India. I'm just saying that India shouldn't be in that situation but they have that situation because of colonial capitalism problems that they have there, and complicity with the United States, and they should really stop playing both sides with bricks and just get on one side. But that's the thing that has to be sorted out over time. But like India produces, right, in absolute terms, 4 times the U.S., at least 4 times the United States STEM graduates. So that's why the United States needs Vivek. That's really what Vivek is for, right? Vivek is a traitor to his own diaspora Indian population. He is a traitor to brown people because, he exploits them. He is a traitor to India as a whole because he doesn't help them, right? He is trying to suck the highly educated, qualified 2.6 million STEM graduates out of India into California to work at Pfizer, to contort molecules and make new versions of fentanyl or new overpriced cures of cancer, which Vivek did pump and dump schemes to sell. Vivek is trying to help the empire, the capitalist imperial system, brain drain a large historically colonized place, India, to exploit the scientists who can make stealth jets and make sure that they work for American military arms contractors. That's what Vivek's job is. That's what his real job is. It's not really that's really why the imperial system keeps him where he is. They need to keep sucking this talent out as much as they can. So, so I know that's where it gets complicated, right? Because it's like I said, it's true that immigrant families work extremely hard, right? It's true that Chinese and Russian and a lot of Asian culture isn't a monolith either. So that some people point out there's not an Asian culture, right? But it is true that there is an emphasis definitely in China. There is a strong. This is a multi-thousand year cultural norm, right? Like the Confucian, part of the Confucian society that was based on philosophies of Confucius, right, was about building a scholarly society, right? You can go back to Giovanni Botella. You can go back to Italian scholars in the 1500s, 1400s that went to China, and they stayed there because they found Chinese culture and also other East Asian cultures. They found it a culture that respected intellectualism, it respected study, it respected people who were devoted to learning and knowledge and seeking truth. And they didn't return to Europe because they found Europe to look up to and more and to respect more a culture of wealth worship, of power worship, of having the one right way. And it was a lot of the population, right, or the people that ruled in Europe were not necessarily the most rigorous studiers, right? The people who ruled in Europe were those who could somehow, wrestle power away a lot of times through maintaining unjust systems like the feudalistic system, right? The church brainwashing, but these were not like in America. It's similar to the American culture, right? Where the people that run America, like Donald Trump, has been president once and he will be president twice. Donald Trump is not the smartest person in the world, right? But he is in power, right? Elon Musk is not the smartest person in the world. He pretends to be Iron Man. Elon Musk pretends like he could invent a fusion reactor, an arc reactor in a cave, right? With just like some belly button lint, scraps of an American, Hellfire missile or Jericho missile. Elon pretends like he is Iron Man, right? Or what the myth of Iron Man, like the one genius white entrepreneur that is worth billions of dollars because his brain is just like a Galaxy Brain S6, just like so smart, right? But Elon is a grifter. Like he made up facts about everything of his degrees. Tesla was created by other actual scholarly, right? Highly educated, highly proficient scientists and engineers, and he just commandeered it, right? I mean, but that is European culture. That's in the capitalistic culture, and a culture of lying, cheating, stealing, killing, doing whatever you can to do to get money and power for yourself, and then trying to erase the past, right? So Elon is doing that, right? That is the. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, like that's not all of Europe, but I mean that's like what has dominated, right? It's people who can somehow, through a combination of murder, treachery, just being horribly abusive. I mean, that's what colonialism is, right? But it also internally, right? That's capitalism, or this kind of unjust feudalism, right? Through some intermarrying, plotting to get people stabbed. Making up lies about people, right? Brainwashing. That's what Western Christianity is. Just making up lies about a revolutionary anti-colonial Palestinian who resisted the Star-Spangled Roman, the Star-Spangled Roman Empire's originator, which is the Roman Empire, right? America is a Star-Spangled Roman Empire. But that's not. But that a colonial culture, right? A Euro feudalistic unjust culture, a culture that put great scientists like Galileo under house arrests, right? A culture that told thinkers like Voltaire who said we should really learn from the Chinese culture, which is an antidote to the poison of illusory Western Christian historiography. That's Voltaire. He was a thinker. Voltaire was put into the stocks. He was exiled. He was punished, right? And you can see why there are French thinkers. There were other European thinkers that left. They left Europe because it didn't respect, like Galileo, right? Like how many people have been burned at stake? How many women who were actually practicing science, and sometimes through what they called pagan, or it was just different understandings of nature to craft cures for everything from boils to heart problems, using understanding of the natural world, right? These women were burned as witches. These people were called demons by Europeans, but they were doing a different kind of study of nature. Indigenous people, right? How many of them were killed by Europeans? The predecessors of the American culture, right? That is not an intellectual culture. That is not a culture that is empirically, rationally, open-mindedly examining the world, right? That is a culture that is discovering Galileo's findings about the heliocentricity of the solar system. Those jeopardize the power structure of the then Italian headquartered imperial structure, right? The Holy Roman Empire, right? The Catholic Church as central to that. And so rather than listen to the scholar, right? The power structure, I'm not saying the Europeans as a general, there's nothing in it. Vivek is correct. There's nothing in the DNA of Caucasians that makes them that particular way and have this unjust system, or in the DNA of people from India or Africa that makes them that particular way. That's another one of the lies constructed by that culture of lying, cheating, stealing, disinforming to get power and maintain power, right? But it is that same culture that said, Galileo, your science, your nerd understanding of the world, your scholarly study jeopardizes our power. That's just one of countless clear examples, right? So we will punish you for being too smart in a way that jeopardizes the unjust power structure of Euro, Catholic, Protestant, feudal, colonial, capitalist power, right? And that is America. That the American culture is the visitors from that place that have showed up by hundreds of millions and then replicated that culture inside the United States. It is the colonial, capitalist, imperial, neo-feudal world hegemon, right? So, anyways, so I forgot who it was. I think it was Arnaud Bertrand, he was a French person who is married to a Chinese person, lives in China now, and he was saying that his comment was that like, this is a historical phenomenon that's not only unique even to America. This anti actual intellectual, anti truth seeking, knowledge seeking, anti scientific, anti technology, anti engineering, anti mathematician culture is a long standing cultural norm. And that's part of why, and in the present, in the current geopolitical landscape, that's why you have, that's part of why United States needs to seek out the scholars, the educated from these other places, like India. India just happens to be, it's not, they don't only seek out Indian STEM graduates, right? They'll take African, there's many African STEM graduates. There are many in Russia as well, right? They'll take anyone they can get. What they want is the humans, as the feudal Europeans viewed it, right? As 16th century Dutch, 17th century French, 18th century British ruling classes, right? They have always viewed the humans as cattle, the other humans that are lesser than them, which is all, right? Human bodies are just they are the tobacco plucking fingers, right, for their tobacco company profits, right? The black slave fingers, or the modern, right, white or brown, or usually brown, H1B or no visa undocumented immigrant labor, right? The brains that invent steam engines, those are the inventor, right? The Tesla is just the life support. The Tesla is not doesn't matter, right? It's just a life support system for an electrical engineering inventor that can give us power and money, right? That's the way that the ruling culture, right, the ruling class of the West, Euro, America, etc. That's just how they operate. They don't view, and they definitely don't view even Vivek as a coconut, a white inside, brown outside, a colonized trader, comprador, right? He doesn't view his Indian population as human either. They are like United Healthcare employees, and especially United Healthcare customers. They are all fodder for Vivek's profits and his power and his company and his self-aggrandization, right? India is 1.4 billion life support systems for science doing neurons. That's how Vivek Ramaswamy views his own people, right? And that's the part that's like, yeah, like what he's saying is true, but what he really wants is not the best. And so does Elon views also everyone that way. And Vivek, like Kamala Harris, right? Kamala Harris views all of the black community of Oakland as slave labor, right? Kamala Harris views her own fellow black Americans as slave labor to put out her California fires and pick her California oranges so that she can have maximum profit and career and cackle as children die in Gaza for money, right? So these you if you have 1 billion people, statistically, you're going to have 50 million people who have or don't act in a way in which they seem to even have a conscience, statistically, right? If 1% was 1% of 1.4 billion people, right? 14 million people will have no morals. They will sell anyone out. That's the percentage of approximate percentage of people that, for whatever reason, genetic or otherwise, they will act in an unlimited fashion to harm others for their benefit. And that's the kind of people that's a problem with the Western systems, is those cultures, they rise to the top the worst in the population, right? It's not necessarily that Caucasian people are evil or something. It's just that the culture that and the economic and societal systems and the religious systems and all the systems together, with the weight of history, bring to the top the worst, right? That's why you have that's why you had Brian Thompson, right? Who used 90%, he unalived thousands of people, as we talked about in the last few streams, by intentionally using malfunctioning generative AI to deny 90% of legitimate healthcare claims, right? Who does that? People who have lost their ability to, have empathy, or they either you don't feel it, you have been able to just ignore it. You can just separate what you do and the hurt and death you cause from, the rest of your life, and you just pretend like it doesn't exist. It doesn't really matter, right? You just have some kind of sociopathic, psychopathic, genetic or acquired or whatever problem, or you just whatever. It doesn't really matter. What it matters is that the people who have no empathy and no morals move to the top of society, and then they control the entire society in the United States and in Europe before it, and in those cultures. It's just right. So and that's what causes a lot of these problems. I mean, that's a separate problem from your culture not being scholarly or not supporting and not prioritizing and celebrating education, right? But that is a problem that the people who these horrible people that run Western imperial capitalist world, they are taking advantage. They are, in one way, they're actually taking advantage. If the United States had a highly educated population, this is what I'm saying, in the long run, Vivek is actually going to harm his ability to be a billionaire. Because if America actually got highly educated, the citizens of America, and they understood their situation more clearly, right? If Americans understood their situation more clearly, they would understand that they are being abused and exploited by the billionaire class, and they would understand more about the history about how to change it, and that could be part of successfully undoing the capitalist system altogether in America. And if that was to happen, then suddenly, Vivek, right? I'm not saying that Vivek Ramaswamy would turn out like the Brian Thompson situation, but Vivek Ramaswamy, if the United States became socialist, right? If there's socialism with, North Turtle Island characteristics, whatever you call that, right? If North America became socialist as a whole, and then that put the global capitalist system in reverse, Vivek's ability to keep making billions of dollars exploiting his own Indian people, diaspora, and still in India, Vivek's ability to exploit privatized healthcare and U.S. government supporting overpriced drugs, which he has been involved in, right? Vivek would lose money. Vivek would lose power, right? Vivek might have to get a real job, right? Vivek might actually have to go to school and stop being a loudmouthed CEO traitor to his own people. So that's kind of a thing. It's a weird thing, but I think Vivek was probably I don't know, but he probably was pressured to study hard in school, right? And then he said, well, Mom and Dad, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go be a CEO. And I'm going to be an idiot like Elon. I'm going to be a horrible idiot who's just good at gaslighting and doing evil like Elon Musk, instead of being a contributing member to society and become a scientist. Instead of curing diseases, Mom, I'm going to hurt millions of people by overcharging them for cures for diseases, right? So that's the paradox of Vivek Ramaswamy. He's a weird guy, right? Because I feel like he is. It's true. Like, he definitely probably grew up in their culture, and there were people in California. I think he grew up in California. I forget where he grew up. In the United States, there were definitely immigrant Indian, South Asian, East Asian communities that were making sure. I know this because I grew up in communities like this too. A lot of people were out. The school I went to, it was all, not all, but majority Filipino, Chinese, Vietnamese, Japanese. Either they were, Nisei, Sansei, or new immigrants. I went to an Ivy League feeder school, and the parents, right, got their kids into the school because they wanted their kids to have the highest SAT score. They wanted, like, I had friends in the school I went to who had to be institutionalized because they had like psychotic breaks. They had like extreme mental health breakdowns where they were out in hospital for months because of the Asian families, their Asian immigrant families' pressure, Tiger Mom pressure to get, if I remember my friend's name was Quinn, and like her mom, if her mom and dad, if she ever got anything less than A+ on anything, on like a math test or social studies test, if she got anything less than A+, her parents would like scream at her and like call her the worst possible things, right? And that's what like broke her ultimately, was her parents were so just like toxic. They had toxic expectations, and they had toxic abusive treatment to maximize their child's scholarly achievements. That's like, and if you know, this is the thing. If you are a immigrant in the United States, if you've been around the immigrant community in the U.S. and the West, or just it's not just there, it's in Asia, inside China and inside all these countries, that's like Holly's watching a bunch of the C-dramas. That is still a thing that happens there. I mean, like, because obviously competition is good. People aspiring to be the best, as people aspiring to have high levels of skill and pushing themselves to be the best that they can be, is not a bad thing, right? But then it can also get out of hand, and China knows that, and Asian countries, some of them don't. Maybe they need to know that more. But so but inside the United States, that continues, and a lot of the diaspora families, right? It's complicated because part of it is like, why do Indians and Chinese, historically, why have Indians and Chinese, a lot of them, the smartest, and many Chinese are just going back because they're like, I'm over America. But why do Indians from India, Asians from East Asia, Africans, South Americans, why do they have to come to the United States? Why do they have to, people talk about, all this African and Arab migration into Europe is destroying Europe, right? Why do they have to move there, right? It's because of the global North, imperialism and colonialism, right? And so that itself is a whole problem, right? This is obviously, this is extremely complicated, and there's so many parts to that. It is absolutely the truth that there is a high level of expectations to a toxic level, but even if the expectations to become good at science, tech, engineering, and math is toxic, a lot of the times you are going to get somebody that is extremely good at science, tech, engineering, and math, or I mean, not just that. I mean, other things as well. English and art, those are important as well, obviously. Getting educated in general. But like, that is a difference. American culture is, it's not in pro-intellectual culture. Certainly not. It certainly wasn't in the 80s and 90s and the 90s and the teens. Anyways, let me move on. So this is a meme somebody made. Black Americans are lazy, bad culture, and need to work harder like Asians. And then MAGA smiles. White Americans are lazy, have bad culture, and need to work harder like Asians. And then MAGA cries. I just thought that was funny. I mean that is what is that this is basically what it has been happening. Is a lot of the, racist white anti-immigrant parts, like that's of the group that comes under what calls itself MAGA. They are being told by a brown guy that they are lazy, their culture sucks, and they have to work and study harder. They're being told to clean the room by a brown guy. See, when Jordan Peterson is a white guy, right, who wrote books that said, white guys, you got to clean your room. Men generally, but also white guys, and he was a white guy. And some guys was like, oh, maybe I should. Jordan Peterson gave a lot of horrible advice, obviously, but he can't. One of the things he said is like, you gotta grow up, and some people did. Not really, not very much though. You have to. You should probably work harder and get a good education. But also Jordan Peterson also said, eat beef, turmeric, and salt exclusively, and that will make you healthy. And Jordan Peterson also said, but the number one problem is women. Women have to be subordinated to men. So, but when a brown guy says your American culture is bad and you native-born Americans, what he's saying is basically white Americans, but not exclusively then, right? So sometimes the children of already privileged immigrants could, they have maybe a different culture, but it's a direct call out, right? And so that's why I said, like, is DEI DEI a white lie? And were the white guys actually the diversity hires? Were they the affirmative action the whole time? And obviously Donald Trump said, I hired a woman because women have to be many times as qualified as a man to make it in the man's world, right? So Donald Trump just said out loud. That's the problem with Trump, is he just says, yeah, I hire brown and black women to do things because they're just like better than guys, because they have to be better than straight white guys, because it's because it's a white man's world. And but the thing is that is the truth. I mean, I made this point before. The United States military would fall apart if it wasn't for Mark Milley, Biden's rainbow, woke, inclusive, diverse military, right? Because without the modern, high tech, highly right, science, tech, and engineering prowess needing, you have cyber warfare. You can't just be you can't just be hanging out and doing podcasting about why women's is the problem and like eating Cheetos and playing video games. Like you can't just be hanging out at the mall. I'm not saying you can't hang out at the mall, but if all you do is consume, right, with the money that your mommy and daddy have, right, and schmooze at the business meetings like your daddy did as a failed son of the U.S. empire, that is not sufficient to win modern wars, right? You need highly educated people that can calculate the trajectories and velocities of missiles and do 200, 500, actions per second in high stakes, super high tech warfare, right? Full spectrum AI drone swarming warfare. You cannot do that if you haven't studied in school. And it's true. Like native born American culture is not conducive towards making large numbers of highly educated people. It just is not, right? American culture says the best thing that you can do is become Elon, and Elon itself is not highly educated. He's an idiot, right? It's schmooze and do crypto schemes and BS your way to the top, right? Get an MBA. An MBA is not an education. An MBA is a license to steal money from other people, and it's a degree in being a psychopath. That's what an MBA is. That's what everyone is encouraged to do, right? If they got a college education, it was to go be a systems analyst. But that's not even the kind of education that you want to get, right? You need actual people who produce actual material technologies. Now, obviously, you need some business people. You need people that are going to be negotiating. You need people who are good at communication, and you need artists. You need people that are good at speaking and writing and doing art and understanding history and all those kinds of things as well in a society. But it is the truth that the American culture is not conducive to those. Also, there's a whole other problem, right? Which is American culture sucks because it prioritizes wealth worship, because it prioritizes because it is a culture that has historically been a white supremacist, colonialist, sexist culture. That obviously sucks, right? Because it has a culture that is hyper jingoistic and worships the military, and it's full to the brim of brainwashed nonsense and lies installed by CIA, State Department, for maintaining hegemony. I mean, that aspect of the culture itself sucks. Also, American culture sucks because it's not even generated by Americans anymore. It's made by plagiarism software and stochastic parrot algorithms like ChatGPT. So it's not even American culture. It's just like American regurgitated, plagiarized shrimp Jesus. I don't know what is American culture anymore. Who the heck even knows? So that's a whole other level in which this is operating. But anyway, let me come back to this and finish this up because it's 1:10. So yeah, it's like I know Holly. I was talking to Holly about this because Holly's been watching, as I said, lots of these the C dramas, right? And like a lot of those shows, like they in high school in the Chinese shows, high school students who study hard and who get good grades, those are the most popular kids in school. Like those are all the girls want to. They ask like the number one question is, what was your boyfriend at the top of the class in math and science, or reading or any subject, right? But it's not just those, right? But like, what kind of grades did your boyfriend get, right? The cool kids are the smart kids, like in the Chinese culture, and that's not just in the last 10 years. Like I brought up the STEM push, right? Which part of Obama's thing was bringing black and brown and women and queer people, highly educated, highly motivated, and immigrants into to be the workforce of empire, right? In academia, in the biotech, pharmaceuticals, in Silicon Valley, like Viveks plantation of Indians that work for him, and in the military, right? That was a new push, right? Having Spider-Man and Iron Man be Mr. Inventor Man, right? And Shuri, right? These kind of techno comic book hero, diverse fighters, right? That are all really smart inventors that are also gonna, help America, with Captain America and the Avengers, bring freedom and democracy and capitalism, which is the best thing ever to the world, right? By being smart tech nerd, that was a new push, right? Relative to the 80s and 90s. A lot of what Vivek's talking about is he, he's like, I think he's like, I don't know what his age is, but he's probably, he grew up in the 80s and 90s, and in that time, right? All the shows that he's talking about, they definitely were anti-intellectual, right? I mean, just look at I gotta get Stefan and Urkel on the screen, right? Urkel in Family Matters, Urkel's alternate identity was Stefan Urkel, but Urkel was a science nerd that was really into studying and science, but he was totally not cool. The joke, and we just watched Die Hard, right? And the Die Hard cop, the black cop in Die Hard, is also Urkel's wannabe Urkel's love interest, or who he wants to date, is the Die Hard cop's can't remember what his name is, daughter, right? But the daughter doesn't like Urkel because he's a nerd, right? He hits the books too much. And, Stefan Urkel, who dresses like Vivek Ramaswamy and Donald Trump and Elon Musk, right? Stefan Urkel dresses like a slick business smooth talker, not someone who studies hard. You see, and that's just this one. That's just this one example, right? Let's look at another example of anti scholasticism, anti nerdism in the United States. In that time, Corey and Boris Merle, slackers, slackers, people who screwed off, people who were not studying hard, right? They were the cool people. Zack and Slater and Screech in Saved by the Bell. I think actually the Urkel Stefan versus Steve Urkel is like one of the best examples because it's literally alter ego of the same person. He even talks differently, right? Right? Getting with the girls, right? Being a jock, right? Like when I noticed because I went to high school at the same time. When I went to school, studying hard, like I studied hard. I tried to study. I mean, I had lots of other people that studied hard, but I tried to get the best grades I could. But that was not cool, right? I played a lot of video games. That was not cool. Being a jock was how you got dates. Being a jock was how you got friends. Being the prom king, high school quarterback, right? That was how people came to look. And it wasn't nothing to do with like your actual skills, really. I mean, maybe some sports skills because you have to work at being at sports, but it really had nothing to do with your skills. It had to do with your ability to come off as a cool person, to seem like a likable person or somebody that has desirable qualities, to seem like a rich person. That was the desirable quality and that was a choice. The United States chose to put these shows on the TV, right? The United States chose to put on the TV shows where smooth talker, loudmouths, cool, or quote unquote people who bully others. Actually, think about like Breakfast. I mean, what is that show we just watched? Like Heathers. It's a commentary on how the U.S. was and also the other desirable characters were in shows. But like in the United States chose to put shows and movies and project culture into the world, and they looked up to Donald Trump as well. Donald Trump was celebrated. Donald Trump was not an intellectual in the 80s. He isn't now, and he wasn't then. Donald Trump is an illiterate. He's very good at reading rooms. He's very good at cutting business deals. He's like the Die Hard guy. What was it? The Die Hard, the cocaine guy, Harry Ellis. Donald Trump. Like this was who was. I know he doesn't look cool in the Die Hard show, but I mean it was a Donald Trump. It was talking about Donald Trump, but Donald Trump was a celebrated person, right? Because Donald Trump was like Vivek, right? Right? Donald Trump was the public poster child. He was an ad about how you could give up on socialism, give up on unions, right? Give up on hard work and become a rich, schmoozing, suit-wearing CEO, right? It was about, right? Because I was talking about it a few streams ago. In the 1920s and 30s, right, there was communist, socialist parties, huge unionization, anti-capitalist sentiment was huge, right? There was threat of revolution and executing all of the rich, and redistributing all the resources and bringing about a socialist path. But right, the rich stopped that from happening, right? The CEOs and the billionaire class and millionaire class, and Roosevelt stopped that. Roosevelt was a rich guy who didn't want to die, and so he gave everybody. He taxed his own people, and he distributed 90% tax rate for the highest classes, tons of money, and it wasn't cool to be rich anymore in the United States. And every man was celebrated, and more so and more so to try to avoid their own death, to avoid their death and the taking of all of the wealthy money and ending the capitalist structure. They made that concession in the 50s, 60s, and the 70s, and they were working on rolling that backwards, right? And by the time they got to the 80s, right, people like Trump and Ellis were put up on the screen as the ideal life for the American person, especially the American man, right? You could go to Wall Street, right? You could go get an MBA, get a business administrative degree, right? And be a cool guy. The MBA is not a degree. It's not about studying, right? It's about becoming good at lying, cheating, stealing, killing. I mean, killing with denying healthcare, killing by blowing people up by investing in military-industrial complex, killing through imperialism, right? Killing through capitalism, denying people basic needs and food, right? But you're making a killing literally is a reference to the fact that to make $1 billion, you have to kill thousands of people, or cause the premature deaths or early shortened life expectancies of millions of people. That's how capitalism works, right? That's why I call it making a killing. I mean, it's not really why nobody wants to talk about it, but that's really what it means. Make a killing means you're going to have to lie, cheat, steal, kill to make that money, right? And so, they focus mostly on how cool and lavish your lifestyle could be if you became a cool suit. But that itself was anti-intellectualism, right? And that it's also anti-hard work. It was pro fake it till you make it, right? Like just get up and get out there and do whatever you can to make the big bucks. Just take whatever shortcuts you got to take. Smash hit the other quarterback's knee. Do whatever you got to do. And so like that. And also the other thing was that the nerds, right, studying hard, hanging out at the mall, right? This is it's not directly the same, but it's related, right? America gave up on, it deindustrialized. Because I'll talk about America's deindustrializing itself, but China is deindustrializing America. The United States chose to take it to have a U.S. petrodollar, right? Just print as much money as it wanted, have fiat currency, and then deindustrialize itself to make more profits for people like Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon, right? The billionaire class, right? The U.S. deindustrialized itself, sent all of its factories abroad, right? And it said we don't need to be smart. We don't need to make things. We're just going to have a bunch of shoppers, right? Americans, all we will do is we will, go to offices and push paper around. We'll push, right, credit default swaps around. We'll push IMF loans around, right? We'll go to meetings and fall asleep in them in the offices. And we'll import tons of poor Mexicans and Africans and Asians to do whatever, actual work needs to be done, essential workers that will cook and clean and drive the Amazon trucks around, right? Deliver. We'll have the Global South do all the production, and China can make all of our Walmart goods. And we'll just screw off. We'll just screw around, right? We'll just be like a slacker. We'll just play Galaga in our cubicles, do bullshit jobs, David Graeber. We'll write loans and we'll make needless, pointless paperwork that all it does is obfuscate all the money we're stealing from the world. And we'll shop. We'll have credit cards. We'll have bank loans for houses and cars. And that's our economy will just be a giant debt-based. That doesn't require education, right? That doesn't really require education. I mean, you might get a degree, but that's irrelevant, right? What you're going to do is a lot of word salad, bullshit, and funny numbers. You're not actually going to do real work. It's bullshit. I mean, the thing is, you can work in an office and you can work in paper, and you can do real work, like science, tech, actually developing 6th generation fighter jets. That takes real work, right? Building 70% of all the renewable technology on the planet Earth and inventing the next cutting edge technologies. That takes real work, right? China has scholars. China doesn't have bullshit job doing paper pushers. In fact, they look down on that. They try to discourage that. They say, don't try to be a Wall Street speculator. Like the Chinese shows. Usually they're not necessarily antagonists, but one of the least favorable characters is somebody who was educated in America, a Chinese diaspora educated in America, went to Wall Street, got an MBA, or somebody who is the son of like a Shanghai business executive who is trying to make money doing as little work as possible, but doing financial schemes, right? Trying to, right, invest in like crappy flip phone games rather than make like interesting games that's going to empower the country. But prioritizing like what has made money making schlock, right? Making generative AI crap is the modern version of making schlock, right? But just trying to figure out ways to make more money is viewed as like an undesirable quality as far as we can gather in the Chinese cultural milieu, in their TV, in their movies, and in their games. Like that is like a negative thing to be doing. And whereas studying and doing actual science, technology, engineering, math, actually building new ways of inventing new solar photovoltaic panels, inventing ways to regreen entire deserts, reversing climate change and restoring ecosystems, right? Or doing biotech or preserving your culture, intangible cultural characteristics, right? Those are positive things, right? In their shows, right? These are all like factors into what has happened. And these are all things that do suck about American culture. They do suck. It's crap. Right? Having vast majorities of people who could be changing the world, inventing cures for cancer or all kind of diseases, right? Who could be doing great science or art or poetry or whatever, right? Making actually interesting games rather than making microtransaction asset flip crap. Having Netflix writers and producers and creators not having to dumb all of their shows down like Netflix recently announced. That all sucks. But why are they doing that? It's because it's based upon a culture. It's layers upon layers of bad culture. That top bad culture is a lie, cheat, steal, kill, barbaric culture, which obviously capitalism is a part of that. But it's a culture. It's not just an economic system as well, right? There's a culture of everyone here. We're here to get ahead in our career, make as much money as possible. Surrounded by other vipers, right? It's the same in DC as it is in Wall Street and everywhere. It's just hyper corrupt hellscape. I don't know how else to put it. At the top, under that, then you have the anti-intellectualism they spread through Urkel versus Urkel. Underneath, you have the culture of slacker culture, which is, don't just be the loser, cool kids who didn't study and Saved by the Bell. Dropping out is cool, right? I was a teacher. There's so much to unpack here. I was a teacher for like 10 years, right? And the U.S. education system is completely broken. It is. It just is. Like, it doesn't educate. It's you have kids that are crammed into classrooms. The teachers don't have enough resources, right? Because of all these factors. And then the kids who are super distracted, right? They're anxious, right? They're watching all these TV shows about being the class clown, being the class dropout, not studying hard, not listening to teacher is cool, right? Being hot for teacher or just saying F you, being a rebel is not necessarily bad, but like being a bad boy in school, right? And like making Jim Carrey jokes, and using R-slur and all kind of other gross jokes as well in school and like disrupting the class. I mean, that's a big, and like that is and a disrespect of teachers. That's part of the anti-intellectualism, right? And a disrespect of those who those who are paying attention and doing their work, not being celebrated, right? And not being looked up to and looked down on also makes it hard to teach. Because when people do look to class clowns, right? People look to those people, that just look cool and aren't studying hard, and then they don't want to study hard. And as a teacher, you're like, well, teachers can't individually, right? Cure all the class disruptions. Every time somebody disrupts a class and then other kids join in on the disruption, and the teacher is basically powerless. The teacher is just like, I don't know what to do. You can't physically, do anything. You can say things to the kids, but at the end of the day, I mean, if it really gets disrupted in class, it can be extremely hard. Like, many teachers just burn out and quit. It's very common. And the American and Western culture, which prioritizes, right, being a quote unquote rebel, screwing off, being a rascal, not studying, all it does is help teachers have a harder and harder time teaching at all times. I mean, it's just it is not an education system. It's a system to push through. I mean, if you get lucky, some people will study something, right? Maybe some people will have some math proficiencies. The reality is 56% of Americans can't read above a 6th grade level. 56% of adults before COVID, right? The United States is an illiterate, uneducated place that has been faking it the whole time. All the Harvard graduates get gentlemen's B's even if they have a pulse and they show up for class. Everyone has been shoveled through the system. And the United States doesn't care, because the United States is just like, well, we'll just take Indians and we'll take Chinese in and they'll do the real work. The United States hasn't cared. So part of it is kind of like, that's totally the case. I spent a decade in the school system and it was horrible. It was a horror. I don't teach anymore because it was freaking terrible. It was so hard to teach kids. And I was teaching like at-risk kids too. And I felt really bad for them, right? But it was still like these kids don't have the resources. I cannot change the entire American culture that is antithetical before you even get into the classroom. You're trying to educate and give kids the learning that they need. No teacher can do that. But this is a perversity of American culture as well. They expect the teachers to be, they have these bullshit movies like, Freedom Riders. This high school teacher comes into the inner city and saves all the kids. That's not how it works. Some white rich girl comes from Marin County into Oakland school and then she leaves. That's how it works. Nothing changes. That's schoolaganda, just like NYPD Blue is copaganda, to make you believe that New York and American cops generally aren't Israel-trained bullies that break the legs of poor working class people on strike, evict people out of their houses for landlord profit, and catch slaves for the black and brown majority prison slave population. Right? Schoolaganda. Right? We're gonna bring some genius teacher into school that's gonna save the school is itself propaganda. That is not America and the West in general. It doesn't have a solution to this problem. The reality is America is gonna keep getting de-skilled. Chinese and the rest of the world should stop immigrating into the United States because they're not gonna. They hate you. They're trying to destroy you and your whole country. I mean, Americans on the street, anti-Asian racism hasn't stopped. It's gonna keep getting worse. The United States is going to keep getting stupider. The education system is going to keep getting worse. When you get to college, even if you want to go to college, going to college is saddling you with multi-$100,000 of student debt. That is the number one recruiting tool for the genocidal U.S. military. We can go help do Where's My Daddy for Isn't Real. So what is even the point, right? It's kind of like there is no solution in the United States. It's just a mess. It's just a giant mess. And like when it comes to teaching, when it comes to the United States, which is a broken culture of layers and layers of rot from the top down, right? It has no interest in trying to fix the school system, right? All parties. I mean, the current president just said we're going to cut the entire Department of Education and all this stuff, and like in some sense, it's like, yeah, who cares, right? It's kind of like the U.S. Department of Education is just a giant military-industrial complex wallpaper to pretend like the university is teaching anything, rather than just like funneling money to Lockheed Martin, right? And funneling young people straight into making F-16 and piloting and or moving drones around the world to kill innocent people. So it's, in one sense, kind of like, who cares? America, de-educate yourself. That's kind of like on a global majority level, it's got to get stupid as possible. They'll make it easier, right, to end the U.S. empire, which is the global empire, right? And the only thing is, if the United States, in one sense, right, this is why Elon is like, I need my H1B visa, and Vivek is like, I need the H1B visa, because I know the U.S. education system sucks. They said that. We don't have qualified Americans, and it's true. But also, right? It's got like, but it's like you should not have immigrant. I mean, over the longer term, eventually you're gonna have to fix these problems. But it's kind of like, in the shorter term, I mean, like, what should happen is that the people inside the United States will ultimately, I think, need to take their educations into their own hands, because there is no solution inside the United States. I do feel that. There is no solution in the United States. I mean, also because if your kid goes to school, he's going to get BSL level 3 pathogens plus H5N1 and die. And get whatever you learn in school. If you accidentally learn anything in American school, you're going to forget it all. Once your brain gets unletified and you have microthrombosis inside the blood vessels in your brain, because you got COVID 75 times while you're in math class. So what the hell is the point of that? So, I mean, like, for somebody, right? I mean, that's another the health reason, pandemic reason. You're gonna have to home educate, or figure out an alternative system of a non-colonial imperial capitalist U.S. Or not non-colonial imperialist way of educating young people, because there is no solution. There is none. And I mean, that's probably one of the DEFCON 5 level of Silver Spoon. Speaking of education, getting school in Urkel and all of this, it is such a tangled mess. It is such a giant, tangled mess. It's so much to unpack and unwind. It's kind of like, but it's great to watch it unwind and the U.S. shred itself into tiny little pieces. The U.S. is going to get schooled in its failures to school. Speaking of education, though, if you would like to get access to education like the Silver Spoon University, which is, what is that? Indigenous of education that combines decolonized history, current struggles, imagined futures, and cultural analysis. From a native fine activist, educator, science fiction writer, and professional game developer, we do hundreds of hours of educational, entertaining, holistic videos combining economics, history, politics, hard and soft sciences, art, pop culture analysis, and more. And you get the Silver Spoon University. It's just basically all the content I've ever produced, categorized according to topics, videos, threads, text, streams, international panels of all kinds on all those different topics. So you don't have to get BSL level 3 pathogens, get diseducated, and have your child surrounded by possibly mass shooters in school. Among other things, but also at the Silver Spoon University, you can also, you can get access to it. I'm sorry, by becoming a Patreon member at any level. That's the school that I take it back. There is a solution to the failure collapse of U.S. education and schooling, and it is everyone become a Silver Spoon patron. Okay, there you go. Happy to. You can also help us out to keep doing international education. I recently did a Christmas Silver Spoon Christmas Friends of Silver Spoon Christmas panel, which had multiple former college professors, a Afro-Caribbean historian of colonialism in Central and South Central America, former professor. We also had a Greco-Roman antiquities historian and a mythology professor, both of them are ex-professors, so they're all doing this. So, that was fun. And we also had friends Monogatsu and a Nora Wright, who is a queer anti-imperialist Swedish disabled person and disability activist, and so that was really cool. And to support, and those are all also educational, right? These are educational. I'm not necessarily at the level. I'm not going to teach you calculus necessarily, but you learn things about history and culture and economics and other topics that are necessary to make changes in the world that you can't get easily, because you can get math easily from many sources. There are many YouTube videos. There's many online sources, textbooks. There's internet school, like OutSchool is one thing we use a lot. That's actually really good. There's a lot of ways to get educated on math and those reading and those other basic topics. But there's some things that is harder to get, that I feel. That's what we're trying to do, is educate people on the things that, especially when it comes to cultural, political topics that are important, that you don't have to get it from us, but it's hard to get it from a general U.S. or Western source. Anyways, you can also support all that continued education we try to do, including doing international indigenous panels and, of course, from indigenous perspectives, as well as finishing Neofeud 2, which is a anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist cyberpunk adventure game where an anti-war ex-robot marine and a refugee hacktivist alien and a multi-billion-year-old indigenous communist alien stop galactic imperialism in a game called Neofeud 2. And that's what I'm trying to finish. Also, I'm working on book covers and, of course, doing food security and sustainability work. We are at the Silver Spoon Cooperative doing this, growing as many sweet potatoes, oranges, coconuts, and other food as possible. Our orange tree, we just got a bunch of oranges. We did one of our Silver Spoon Cooperative tasks this week was to trim back a bunch of octopus tree stranglers branches that were trying to smother or steal all they were colonizing the sunlight. That's what the global north tries to do by taking all the photovoltaics and selling overpriced green tech back to Africa to keep them impoverished. We had these octopus trees that were over the orange tree, so we had to cut them back so the orange tree could access more sunlight. And that's been really good. And if you want to support all this work, land back decolonization work here at the Silver Spoon Cooperative, as well as, of course, the games, education, and more, you can become a patron. You can also give a one-time donation through Ko-Fi at ko-fi.com/silverspook. Where you can give a one-time donation, and we really appreciate that. And the maximum revenue does come to us when you do it in that way. Of course, you can also get games like Neofeud. Neofeud is a, of course, anti-capitalist cyberpunk adventure game, and it is on sale on Steam. Neofeud 1 is. It is $4.49 for less than 1/10 the price of the average college math textbook in the United States. You can get yourself what some Steam reviewers have called a multidimensional representation of Karl Marx's Das Kapital. That's literally a review somebody left. So thank you very much to Saima for saying that about Neofeud. So do you want an entire celebrated Western economists entire magnum opus in your brain? When you play Neofeud, you get Das Kapital installed as a side benefit. That's how much education I put in my games. It's like playing Source 2 games is like going to school for like your entire 12 years, and you learn more than when you go to Western school, because you learn how to read, and they don't even teach you that. So anyways, in the US, so you can also leave even a very short review. If you like Neofeud, you can leave even a very short review, and that helps us to get the game discovered in the Steam algorithm. You can also get Neofeud on itch.io for Windows and for Mac and for Linux, and you can also get it in the Silver Spook bundle, which is a bundle of 3 separate games, including the games plus the Neofeud soundtrack, which I spent a long time composing. And you get Decolonators, which is the game where you kick capitalist colonizer butts out of your sovereign country. And you can also get Woman, which is a book by Holly, who was raised in right-wing evangelical Protestant Christianity, and it is a book about Mary's perspective within the Bible, and it critiques this right-wing Christian culture. All the MAGA dudes that were listening to Bro Jorgen and Jorgen Breederson, son of a breeder. All of the right-wing conservatives that are crying now because Vivek, a brown Indian guy, said, hey, You're not very smart. Also, I'm not going to fund your education, but you're not smart. So I'm not going to hire you. All those criers are going to be mad about this book as well. If they read it, and it's a book that also critiques that right-wing Christian culture. You can also follow at Silverspoon Games at wandering.shop and or at Silverspoon Games at mastodon.social. And of course, you can also follow on the Blue Sky. Our skies are blue. Or Blue Ski. It's like at the Polish tech company Blueski. You can follow me. No. At silverspoonguy.bsky.social and or at Silverspoon Games minus the Silverspoon Games at .bsky.social. And you can also follow on Twitter at Silverspoon Guy or at Silverspoon Games minus the Ian Silver for the games related stuff. And yes, very good. Oh good, I got out before too. Good job, me. Saved by the bell. And by the bell I mean the alarm that goes off in my head at 1:45. Saved by the bell. Yeah, so also thank you very much to all of our patrons on this list. Without your patron support, it's hard for us to keep doing this work, so thank you very much for all of your generous support. Thanks very much. Until next time, hey, keep hitting those books. Keep hitting those books. Don't be a billionaire, smooth talking, Stefan Urkel, liar, cheater, stealer, killer like Vivek and Elon. Be an actual, right? Actual scholar, actual educated nerd. Hit the books. Do read some books, and yeah, we'll see you next time.